Hello Year 9 and welcome to this week's lessons of home learning. This week we are going to look at revising the development topic that we've learned so far. So our first learning objective for this lesson is to recap the measures of development. We're then going to look at the demographic transition model, the DTM, and then finally we're going to look at the causes of uneven development and revise why that is happening. Now, in the bottom left hand corner you've got the equipment that you will need for this lesson, and then you've got your know your level at the bottom, which you can read through so you know which task you should be doing in terms of your grade. So our first learning objective of this lesson is to look at the measures of development. And I'm just going to put up 7 different pictures which link to different measures of development. Now for your task, you're going to use the pictures, and for developing, you're going to identify each of the measures using those pictures. Once you've done that, I then want you to link them to either social or economic. So is it a social measure of development? So is it helping people have a better life? Or is it an economic measure of development? Is it making the country more money? Once you've done that, you can move on to the secure task. And that's where you're going to tell me from those 7 different measures that you've identified, which one of those do you think is the best to measure a country's development? So you're going to say, this one is the best. I think this is the best because. Mastered task then, Human Development Index is the best measure of development. To what extent do you agree with this statement? So you need to tell me what a Human Development Index is and why it's the best measure. This means that you can tell me what it means for a country if they've got a high or a low measure of HDI. This links to, and that's where you link it to SEEP and explain why. And then, however, is there a better way to measure a country's development, or is there a problem with HDI and how what's not a good thing about it? Okay, so you've got 3 tasks there to do. Can you make sure that you take a picture of that work once you've done it? So just pause the video now so you can complete your tasks, please. So moving on to learning objective 2 of this lesson, we're going to look at the demographic transition model, which you've already looked at once before in a full lesson. We're going to, first of all, for our developing task, we're going to use our word wall matchup activity. So for developing task, you're going to open up the word wall activity and match up and label the DTM. So if you can see on the slide currently, there are little circles on that you're going to be able to label, which will then label up and explain the DTM. Okay, so you're going to label the 5 stages, examples of countries you find in each stage, and then you're going to look at what each line represents in terms of its data. Okay, once you've done that, you're going to come back to this task, which is the secure task. You're going to write down and describe each stage of the DTM. So you're going to tell me what the birth rate, the death rate, and the total population is like in each stage of the DTM. So for example, in stage 1, the birth rate and the death rate are very high. They're fluctuating because they go up and down. Okay, this means that the population is very low. Okay, stage 2, you then explain what the birth rate and death rate is, and again tell me how that affects the total population, and you do that for all 5 stages of the DTM. For mastered then, you're going to then add to your description of each stage, and you're going to explain how each stage links to their development in terms of the countries that you'd find there. So for stage 1, you could talk about, in stage 1 we can see the birth rate and death rate are very high, population is very low. This means that the healthcare and education are very low levels. Okay, so they may have very poor healthcare and very limited education, and that's how you link it to their development, and you do that for each stage. Okay, so what I want you to do is pause the video now, go over to word wall, complete the word wall activity, then have a go at the secure task of describing each stage, and then the master task of explaining how it links to development. So just pause the video now, go over to class charts and open up your word wall activity. So our final learning objective of this lesson is to look at what causes uneven development across the world. And uneven development just means that why are countries at different levels of development? So why are we not all on the same level of development across the whole globe? Okay, now there are 3 factors that we've looked at previously that cause uneven development. These are historical factors, economic factors, and physical factors. So historical factors are things that happen in the past. So for example, European countries colonized, so they took over parts of South America, Asia, and Africa, and how has that caused uneven development? We then look at economic, and that's where we link to the amount of money that countries have, and this can then cause low life expectancy, illness, lack of nutrition, and this all makes it hard for economic development to happen within a country. And then finally, we've got our physical factors, and those are things that the physical geography of some countries make it difficult for development to happen. So things like the biomes that you live in, the climate of the area, okay, and they all link together, as we already know from previous topics. So the task that we're going to do again, I'm going to ask you to complete, first of all, a word wall activity. And what you're going to do in that word wall activity is match up different factors to historical, economic, and physical. Once you've done that, you're going to come back and do this developing, secured, and mastered task. So the developing task, I want you to create an image of a historical, an economic, and a physical cause of uneven development. Now, on the word wall activity, there will be at least 2 for each one of those factors. So I want you to just take one from each one and create it into an image. And an example of that would be climate-related diseases. So you can draw a mosquito and the sun, because it's to do with hot temperatures. Mosquitoes transmit malaria around those areas, and that's just an example in the corner there. For secured, I then want you to explain which factor you think is the biggest influence on even development. And I've got sentence starters there. I think that historical factors impact development the most. I think this because. So why do you think that is the case? This means that what's happened to the country's development why has it stopped the country from developing, and this leads to what's going to happen in the future. For mastered, then I want you to complete the secure task, and then I want you to add to your secure pedal paragraph a however. So evaluate your answer. However, some may argue, and that's where you'd say some may argue that this factor may actually cause maybe a bigger cause of uneven development. Okay. So once you've done that, you can take a picture of your work ready to upload to ClassChart. So just open up your word wall activity so you can match up, then come back to this screen and complete one of the 3 tasks. Okay, so pause the video now. So that brings us to the end of today's lesson. Just before we finish, I just want to go through the things that I want you to upload to ClassChart. So first thing I'd like you to upload is your list of development measures and an explanation of the best measure. And that links to our first learning objective, which is recapping measures of development. I then want you to upload your final task, which was the causes of uneven development explanations. So, and again, that links to causes of uneven development revision. So once you've uploaded those 2 pieces of work, you've completed the lesson. So well done for taking part in this lesson today. Looking forward to seeing you all next lesson. Thank you.